The yuan gets a nod of approval and gains reserve status this week by the IMF after the organization allowed the Chinese currency to join the euro, the dollar, the yen, and the British pound in the special drawing rights basket of currencies. But our next guest says this might actually be a mistake. Joining us is a professor of political science, Benjamin Cohen, for the University of California. Thank you so much for being with us, Professor.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So you say the yuan inclusion may not be a good idea here. Can you elaborate?
Well, certainly. Until now, since the birth of the SDR, special drawing rights, back in the late 1960s, the eligibility for the basket that determines the value of the SDR has always been treated as a purely technical matter. Clear criteria were developed by the IMF staff to determine whether or not a currency would qualify for the basket. By most measures, the yuan, or Chinese renminbi, the RMB, falls short of what would normally have been expected in the past. It's clear that the decision here was made on political grounds, not on technical grounds, and what that does is to politicize a process that until now has always been treated as purely technical. And it opens the door to pressure from other countries that have ambitions to develop an international currency of their own. The Russians would like to see the ruble be an international currency. Brazil or India might, any of the BRICS countries might be interested. And this then opens the door to a much more politicized process.
So, Professor, do you think Chinese officials may have forced their way into getting the currency into the special drawing rights basket?
Well, I have no doubt that behind the scenes, they made every effort to persuade the major powers and the staff and the managing director of the IMF to do this. They have many forms of inducement that they can offer. It's no accident that the British government was the first Western government to endorse the idea of including the RMB in the basket. The British government has been trying to promote what they can call a new golden era of relations with China, in hopes that London will be selected as the main trading location for the Chinese currency in Europe. Also in hopes that British companies will get contracts for infrastructure projects sponsored by the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank that China will dominate. What we have here is a situation where undoubtedly the Chinese authorities put a lot of pressure behind the scenes and offered a lot of inducements behind the scenes to get agreement on this.
But Professor, the Chinese government has made reforms in order to be more inclusive with the global economy. But are you saying this is not enough to be a reserve currency?
No, what they have done are very small incremental steps, very consistent with their long-term strategy going back to Deng Xiaoping, who said that the best way to move forward is to cross the river by feeling for the stones. The Chinese have implemented marginal improvements at best in terms of access to their currency. It is still a strictly inconvertible currency for capital account transactions. What they have done here is to move just enough to persuade the IMF staff that they are moving in the right direction. Whether they will continue to move in this direction now that they have gotten what they wanted is another matter, and we just don't know.
Well, one thing they have done is they have been adding to their gold reserves. Was this just part of the Chinese government's goal to join the SDR basket?
Well, it has to be seen this way. Joining the SDR basket is part of a broader strategy to achieve major international status for the Chinese currency. What they want is to make the Chinese currency a rival to the US dollar as a currency for the denomination of international trade and investment, as an anchor for currencies, and most importantly, as a reserve currency, all of which brings great benefit to the country that issues an international currency. What's happened here is that the Chinese government has a multi-pronged strategy. One part of the strategy to promote internationalization of the RMB was to join the SDR basket. Another part is to acquire significant gold reserves because they're their perception is that no currency will become a respected major international currency if not backed by a certain quantity of gold. So both are seen as part of a broader strategy of RMB internationalization.
Professor, thank you so much for your thoughts today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for watching this edition of the Kitco Gold Report. We'll see you tomorrow.